Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillahi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. You know, it's funny. The idea of being told right from wrong is very interesting. Especially in Western societies, we have trouble being at peace with absolute authority. So how do we come to terms with the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has reasoning and wisdom about what He ordains for us? Well, there are some things we are told to do or not to do, and are given explicit reasons why. And this is so that we can trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His infinite wisdom. And then, there are reasons we haven't been told. Why is this? It's because those things are explicitly a test. Can we trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He only wants what's best for us? Do we have the submission in our hearts? And so, to help us build that submission, we can take a look at the driving reasons or basis for Islamic Sharia or rulings in the first place. Firstly, protection of religion. Islam is the peace in our lives. It is the submission that truly sets us free. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created rules in accordance with honoring this fact, like shirk or assigning partners to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or creating false gods. That takes you out of the fold of Islam. Next, protection of human life. This is one of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's gifts to mankind. So to transgress this would then oppress someone in their ability to live a noble life. Protection of the mind, intellect. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has honored us with intellect and a conscience that is extremely specific and special to us. This is the main reason why we have a strong sense of accountability, and we will have to answer for our actions in the afterlife. Fourth, protection of lineage. Trying to promote a perfect family system in which children are protected and the moral fabric of society is whole. Fifth, protection of property. Make your income halal or pure. Are you a mobster? Do you deal with illegal substances? Scam people with predatory money contracts? Betray others' trust? Do you spend money supporting harmful causes? Completely forbidden. And every cent you spend procured from those forbidden acts is also a sin. So with that basis, let's take a look at a couple of historically contentious examples of things that are forbidden for us in Islam. Firstly, zina, adultery, or extramarital intercourse. Someone might come up to me and say, what's the big deal? Na'udhu billah. Me and the girl just want to have a good time, a little bit of fun. We're not hurting anyone. We're just minding our own business. What's the risk? And you know what? Sure, your argument might have something more to talk about when we talk about this little incident excluded from anything else. But first and foremost, as Muslims, we must understand that it's not about just you. It's not about just the girl. And when we think about the reasoning behind something, it's not about just us. Children raised in the absence of a healthy two-parent family unit have higher rates of being mentally unhealthy, prone to temperament imbalances, aggression, and other developmental issues. Now, that's not to say that there's anything wrong with these children. This is not a causation that everyone turns out like that. Actually, our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was an orphan, and you see his perfect example and character. But those children are exposed to that risk. And when you have a whole generation of children born out of wedlock, what about the children they raise? The risk exponentially increases and causes ripples in society. Also, what does it say about the moral fiber of society that this happens regularly, when the most intimate experience you can have with another human being lacks any sort of responsibility, commitment, or need to bear with someone for the sake of the future relationship? When it becomes okay to have casual intimacy with someone with no responsibility, it speaks to the society at large and what things that they would be willing to compromise for the sake of satisfying themselves and their lowly desires. And look at the result. It's been normalized to the point where children are being hypersexualized on Netflix. I know you know the name of that movie. We have a generation of young men and women where it would be weird if they didn't watch pornography because it's so normalized. And I don't even have to cite any studies about the negative effects of these things. This is because our definition of sexual promiscuity is changing with the times. Why? Because we stopped caring about the sanctity of sexual relations. Now, if we take a look back at the reasonings for Sharia that I mentioned earlier, this violates protection of lineage. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows exactly why He tells us not to do something. Next, you Muslims don't drink alcohol. Why? Someone might come up to me and say, what's the harm in a little drink? Why can't I just go to that party and kick one back? I'm not hurting anyone. I'm just trying to relax. But then again, it's not about you. If we're talking about me and you, maybe we can talk about that, but Islam is meant to perfect not only ourselves on a spiritual level, but to course correct the direction of all of humanity. That's why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was given so many rulings on how to govern a society through and through, because we need that guidance. And so I ask, how many people die a year while driving under the influence? Alcohol is also directly linked to domestic abuse and so many other things. Khamr, or alcohol, is so heinous that we're told not even to touch it because it is a major sin that directly causes one to do other major sins that he would have otherwise never considered. Maybe that person wouldn't have killed someone out of a rage, but under the influence, that's another story. Alcohol releases the restraints that we would otherwise normally have, and that's why this violates the goal of our Sharia, protection of intellect. Now, When you have a generation of alcohol abuse and addicts, what does that do to society? One day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was teaching Jibreel, Archangel Gabriel, a lesson. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed Gabriel, Jibreel alayhi salam, Jannah or paradise. Now upon seeing how beautiful paradise or heaven is, Jibreel alayhi salam exclaimed, no one is going to hear about this and not get in, not want to get in or do anything to get here. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surrounded Jannah or heaven with all of the hardships and sacrifice it will take to enter it. To which Jibreel alayhi salam exclaimed, I am afraid that no one is going to enter it. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed Jibreel alayhi salam Jahannam, hellfire, to which Jibreel alayhi salam exclaimed, no one is going to hear about this, how horrible this is, and enter it. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surrounded hellfire with all of the pleasures, pitfalls, and desires that will lead someone there. And then Jibreel alayhi salam finally replied, I am afraid that no one will be saved from this. This world has been created with so many low-hanging fruits, stimulations, and things that we can easily use to temporarily satiate our desires. But there's wisdom behind why these things were laid out for us, because they give us a taste of what's there for us in the next life, the place where we will be able to satiate all of our desires and do all of the things that we wish we could right now. But you'll notice something interesting. If you try to quench your thirst right now, in this life, you end up feeling empty and hating yourself because it'll never feel good enough. Look no further than drug abuse in Hollywood or some of the harrowing interviews with famous people and how they grapple with mental health crises. Our soul knows that it has the capacity to feel fulfilled, but not in this life. That's why the job for us is to feel at peace and to embrace the tranquility and fulfillment that comes with not indulging in our desires, and that they were put in this life as a means to remember Allah. That's the purpose that Islam serves us. It causes us to think about things deeply, not just about the things that are outwardly attractive about a certain act. It's about the things that seem unattractive on the outside, but in the long run, they're extremely beautiful. And look, I get it. Biologically, at our fundamental caveman core, we live through instant gratification. If you look at animals, they're only inclined toward eating, sleeping, and procreating. And as a matter of fact, their inclination towards those things helps them survive. But they are not sentient like us. Our purpose is much higher than that. When we begin to stop thinking about things being halal or haram just because it makes our lives hard, and we think about the whole context of humankind's existence, you begin to understand that these rules aren't here to restrain us, but to ensure that we are living our lives to their fullest potential and reaching levels we never thought possible.